Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my review of episode 6 of Stargirl season 3. Now, after learning that Courtney has been spending time with Cameron, Pat and Barbara kind of go on a recon mission to see if Jordan's family pose a threat. Now, I did say last week that we would get some action, guys, and in this episode, it did not disappoint. The tensions between Yolanda and Cindy reached new heights. But I really did feel for Cindy in this episode. And previously, I said that all signs point towards her being the killer. In the back of my mind, I kind of always said, even from episode 1, that it was Mr. Bones. But now, I kind of stand by that now. It's definitely Mr. Bones. Now, the one thing going in Cindy's favour was that I said the only reason why she would be the killer is if she suffered blackouts. That way, she wouldn't even know what she was doing. But that's clearly not happening. Cindy is aware of what she's doing at all times. Now, last week, we focused heavily on Rick in terms of taking a timer off his hourglass. And he breaks into Rip City to test his newfound super strength and the limits in terms of times. Now, he grins as he's using the barbell weight, and he does it effortlessly, rep after rep, curl after curl. And when his timer goes past the 60-minute mark, he kind of gives a massive scream and shout, like he's beaten the problem of it only giving him 10 or 20 minutes. But like I said before, that's going to come as a price. And he still can't fight. You know, he still doesn't know how to fight, and he hasn't asked anyone to train him. But I like what I saw. Thank you for the writers. More of this, please. We'd like to see more of Rick and get all the other guys involved as well. Speaking of getting the other guys involved, what I thought was the most chilling part of this episode was the church scene, where Yolanda sits in confession, asking the priest to bless her for she has sinned. Now, Yolanda hasn't really got anyone close to talk to, and this is why I love this scene. A lot of heroes in the past, like Daredevil, Blade, have always had kind of people close to them in the church. And she said when it's safe, she will tell the priest everything about Blue Valley. But for now, he should know that there are people in this town that have secrets. I mean, which town doesn't have secrets? But she's not asking for forgiveness for what she's done. She's asking for forgiveness for what she's about to do. And I thought the whole scene was pretty dark. She's gone way off a cliff. And at some point, she's going to need someone to reel her in. It can't be Courtney, because she ain't listening. So it's probably going to be left to Starman. But what we saw in this episode was Barbara and Pat meeting Jordan's parents. And this was hilarious. With Grandma wanting to poison them and Granddad trying to calm it all down. Granny was firing it off on all angles, constantly needed to be calmed down. And it makes you wonder, why hasn't she done anything yet to hurt Courtney? Well, maybe that time will come. The thing is, they still don't know which person killed their son and how he died. All they know is that it was the JSA. So, nothing really for me to add from the young all-stars this week. To be honest, it was a bit silly. We didn't even get the 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, this scene was probably less than a minute, with Jakeem and Mike standing outside Cindy's house getting rejected with chocolate and flowers. I did like the bit with Zeke. We saw old man Zeke just telling us about the old days of how he used to swing it. But I thought that scene was quite funny. But it's a little disappointing that these two, and I talk about them every week, and we're not just getting enough from Mike and Jakeem. I'm getting desperate, guys, for these two to add something to the series. So please, let them start their own mystery. It should have been them who was the ones that uncovered Mr. Bones. But that was reserved for Beth, who was nearly the MVP of this episode. As she's working on decrypting the gambler's laptop, she sees the video feeds with Wildcat fighting Cindy on the lawn of the Berman residence. And that fight was awesome, guys. I mean, the fighting in the show always hits it out the ballpark. It never seems to disappoint. And before Cindy would have got beaten down with ease, there's an element to that. There's an element of Cindy wanting to be good. And that's why I think at times she may have been pulling her punches. And then Yolanda being on the revenge tip from Cindy. So she was overly committed in that fight. But Cindy was right to tear into the JSA. The hypocrisy, guys, is real. And they had to back off her. All she's looking for is answers to what her father did to her. That's it. And you can't sort of get her down because of her wanting answers. So I kind of like how that played out. But Yolanda and Rick, boy, they immediately went after Courtney. And those two are just looking to push people off the team because of trust. And guys, maybe they're not wrong. You know, it's a team and a superhero team with very high standards. We both know what Rick went through with his father, and we know what happened with the original Wildcat. So they are walking in some serious shadows there. But yes, Courtney should have been more open to her friends about what she was doing with Cameron. No doubt about it. And Courtney needed to learn a lesson about mutual trust. How can she be the one telling everybody to have more trust and be honest when she comes back and actually does the same thing that she's telling everybody in the team that they must do? Now, how she comes back from this will be her biggest challenge and lesson yet. So, on to the real MVP of the show, guys. It was Sylvester. Starman, what is going on here, guys? A couple of episodes ago, we were talking about him being a loose cannon. And him and Pat have provided the calm voice of reason on the series thus far. There's an impression that Pat was a bit jealous of Starman taking his place with his stepdaughter. But, you know, it's what Pat always wanted. He respects Starman. And remember, he's been gone for a decade. And this way, if Pat puts Starman in control, then Pat can watch from afar and do some investigation of his own. And Sylvester actually comes through this with flying colours. And he's strangely level-headed in this episode. Although, let me bring you guys back down to earth. He could be the original Sylvester, who's traumatized by everything that's happened to him, or he could be something else. It could be a clone. It could be manipulated. So let's just keep that in our back pocket, shall we? Let's keep that in reserve. But for now, it's strange because we all believe that Starman was a jerk. And in this episode, it only shows that the conversation he's had with Pat about becoming a mentor is slowly growing inside of Starman. And he's giving the team good advice. Even though Rick didn't follow it, Rick's done the opposite of what he said. But let's just remember, guys, Rick was abused by his family. And Yolanda, as she pointed out, her family is trash. So those two are always going to look for blood. They both seem to be mirror images of pain from their childhood. So overall, guys, good episode, man. Really, really good episode. I'm going to give this one an 8.2 out of 10. Really good exposition in this episode. A lot of people got to shine. And we didn't see Crusher or Paula in this episode, but the Crocs did strike again, changing all of the food and the breakfast for more healthier lifestyle. I think that Barbara's starting to appreciate Paula a little bit now. But the surveillance thing is weird, and I bet some of you are thinking, why didn't Beth just shut it down? Well, if she did, guys, how would she be able to track where it's coming from? So also, what I found strange in this episode was, and again, our MVP, Starman Sylvester, loads of time to shine here. And then when he was sitting down talking to Courtney, he actually confirmed that he knew about Henry Jr. And we got a lot of backstory in terms of his sister and how that relationship all played out with Brainwave. And I really did like that. These are moments that I thought we was going to get a lot more of with Starman coming back. And it hasn't really panned out that way. And now we're seeing a more calmer, cooler Sylvester. We're starting to see him shine with these lovely moments. And it's sad that Sylvester never got to meet Henry Jr. It's really sad. So with Courtney off the team, the only member now who has not left the modern JSA is actually Beth. Isn't that weird? It doesn't surprise me. You know, she's the most loyal member in the team. But even she had to turn around to Courtney and kind of show her disappointment because she was always on her side. So guys, listen, that's it from me. A fantastic episode this week. Really, really good. And I just hope that this comes to a head as next week, I'm sure we're going to see Mr. Bones. We can see him messing around with a jigsaw puzzle. I still can't work out what the jigsaw puzzle was. But I think it's apparent now that we're getting closer and closer to seeing who the big bad is in this season. Still no sign for the UK though, and Amazon Prime or Netflix. I am hearing both are in discussions, but we're going to have to wait to see how that plays out. It's a bit silly because we're halfway through and the UK is a big, big, big audience. And we're being left out in the cold here. It's nearly been 2 months now that it's been on air. And so far, nothing. And it would be nice, this is very frustrating, it would be nice if they communicated with the fan base. Tell us something. Tell us you're working on something, or tell us that we're going to get it on a certain day. What I don't like about these film studios and TV studios is we're just being left out in the cold. I know Bleach is going through this on Disney Plus, where they just sprang the episodes in on the 10th of October, but without any warning at all. But I would just like them to be a little bit more forthcoming in terms of their plans. It's not good. Maybe they're doing it because they don't want to sort of overcommit and underdeliver. So maybe that's the reason. And if that's the case, then at least tell us that. But communicate with us. Tell us what's going on. And that's it from me, guys. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace out.